Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at a Poulan PP4218 AVX chainsaw. Customer complaint is that the chain brake isn't working. You can see there that we pushed the lever forward and the chain was still able to roll. So we're going to pull the side cover off of here and take a look at what's going on. So there's kind of a big mess going on here, but it looks like there's some severe melting going on. So we're going to take this chain brake assembly off and take a closer look at what's happening here. And you know, this isn't the first time that I've seen this. The typical Poulan Pro purchaser isn't necessarily a professional tree guy, you know what I mean? So chain brakes might not be something that the average homeowner is familiar with. And from time to time, they try to run the saw with the brake on. When you do that, you end up with generating a lot of heat. And because these saws are made mostly of plastic, things begin to melt. So as we clean this up a little bit more, you can see that the brake band is broken. It's broken because it, wore right through. And in that process is when it generated all that heat. So let's see if we can get this thing apart. That band is just kind of melted right into the plastic. Just doesn't want to come apart. Well, let's see if we can get it apart if we pull the clutch drum off of it. There's going to be an E-clip holding it in place. Keep one finger on the E-clip when you release it so that the thing doesn't go flying across the shop. Then a washer and then the drum. And there we harvested our brake assembly. Broken brake assembly. Now we're going to remove the clutch itself. And a big washer. Behind that is the oil pump. But look at all the meltage here. It's pretty bad. And we're going to have to clean that up. Now, I suppose the proper way to do this would be to get a new crankcase. But I tell you what, for the cost of these saws, and the labor involved, it's kind of an expensive proposition. So let's fit the, and I say new brake assembly, but actually this is a used unit from a different saw. Actually, it's a used unit from a different saw where it had almost no runtime on it, but when you don't put oil in the fuel and you score the cylinder, you end up with a lot of good used parts that you can put in other people's saws. So it doesn't look like that band is opening all the way up. Right there when we release the brake and the band opens, it's pushing against melted plastic right now. And because of that, this drum isn't going to fit on here. We would end up in the same situation if we forced that on there. So we'll have to pull this brake assembly back off and clean up that melted plastic. So the idea here is to take off as little material as needed to make just enough clearance for that brake band. And in fact, I will probably repeat this process 2, 3, maybe even 4 times total. I'm not going to show you all of that, but it's just a matter of measuring and grinding and then checking it out and seeing if it fits. So we've poured the oil out of the machine because we're going to remove the oil pump. The pump's got to come out because I just don't have enough clearance to get as deep into there as I want to. The meltage goes back pretty far, back beyond the oil pump. And I don't want to nick the pump and damage that and have to spend another $6 or whatever them pumps cost. Alright, now that we've made some room, we're going to get back in here and start grinding. Alright, I think I've got it all ground out. So now I put a little bit of grease on the oil pump and I'm reinstalling that. You just push the end of the pump into the rubber hose that comes from the tank, and 2 Phillips head screws hold it in place. Next, our big washer goes on, then our clutch. I'm going to pull the recoil handle out a little bit before I tighten the clutch down, just so I'm not putting any strain on the starter assembly and the rope. Thrust washer, clutch drum. Drum seems to spin just fine. Washer and E-clip. And we put our chain guide plate in place. Got to push the tab down a little bit to make a friction fit over that one stud so it stays in place. And then I'm going to put some grease on the chain brake assembly, the spring, the knee joint, everything behind the cover there. It's going to get a little bit of grease. Now you'll notice that that chain guide plate is off again. That's because I had to redo it. I test fit like this and the drum didn't spin free. I had to take it all apart and do a little bit more grinding. And I just saved you the agony of having to watch that. So we're putting it back together a second or third time. Brake seems to work. The drum seems to spin free when the brake is released. We'll get all our screws on the brake kit into place. Reinstall our washer and our E-clip again. Cripes. Chain guide plate goes back on. Don't forget to bend the tab back down. And there you go. That's your repair. We'll put the bar and chain back on and send it. So that's all I got for you on the Poulan PP4218 AVX chainsaw chain brake meltage. Thanks for watching. Later.